what you need to know before buying your first home. Hi, welcome to Real Estate with Stephen Smith. Today we're going to talk about the 5 most critical things that you need to be aware of before buying your first home. Well, let's talk about some of the first things you really need to be aware of if you're looking for a new home. What do you need versus what's nice to have? That's really one of the biggest things. It's nice to have a 3-car garage. It's nice to have the gourmet kitchen. Maybe it's nice to have a lot of land. It really depends on what your needs are. Are you going to be looking forward to doing a lot with a yard, or are you going to be busy spending a lot of your time at work? Do you have kids? If they're little, they probably need a place to play. That's something to take into consideration as well. Location versus commute. That's a biggie. Some people, commuting is no big deal. They can travel all over the place, but other people are willing to spend a little bit extra. So for the area where, I often do business in, which is the Silicon Valley area and then into South Santa Clara County in California, commute can be a big deal. Commute here is something you want to bear in mind. If you're working from home, however, especially during this pandemic, then maybe it's not such a big deal. Then you can move farther away. A lot of people are taking that into consideration now as they're moving away from more congested city areas and into the countryside where they can get a lot more house for their money. But if the commute is super important to you, if you need to be in the office all the time, or if your job requires being on site, then commute is something to take into consideration. Another thing you might want to consider is schools. How important to you are they? If you're retired, maybe not so much. But if you've got kids, schools can be a big deal. Now, if you're using the public schools, then you want to look at those areas that have the best schools. If private schools are really more where you're thinking about sending your kids, then, where are those private schools? How good are they? And are they close by? Those are another thing. Most people look at things like schools and commute are a couple of the biggest things to take into consideration. One of the second things you want to take into consideration, and that has to do with financing. A lot of people start looking for houses, and today, in today's market, we're getting into the end of 2020, a lot of people can afford to buy now. Interest rates are super low, so they're practically lending money for almost free. So if you're thinking about buying, it's important that you have your financing in place. Well, what does that mean? Well, financing means that you need to have at the very least about 20% down would be the optimal if you're going to put a down payment on a new home. You can get lower down payment options, including FHA or VA loans if you're a vet. There's a number of different options out there. But you definitely want to have a pre-approval letter if you're planning on financing. Now, if you have cash, not a big deal. But a lot of people go out and they start looking and they say, oh, this is a great house, it's great. And then they find the house they really fall in love with. It's the perfect home, perfect location, perfect school district. The price is right. But they don't have their financing in place. Well, chances are, especially in the market we're in right now, there may be multiple offers if it's priced aggressively. Therefore, if you don't have your financing in place, you're behind the 8 ball and you have to try to catch up in order to put in an offer, which means you're going to need to get your pre-approval. Well, that can take 2 or 3 days, best case. So if you have your financing set up, a pre-approval letter, and at least 5% down payment, the chances are you can qualify for a house that's within your budget. The other thing to consider when you're looking at financing are some of the more affordable housing options. Some of the lending brokers available, and I'm always glad to turn you on to really good lenders, have some really good options for first-time buyers. The government actually encourages housing purchases, so there's a lot of stuff available that you may not otherwise be aware of. You might think you're priced out of a house, especially in the market that we're in here in California, in the Bay Area. However, you'd be surprised. There's a lot of different options out there. Again, it's really important to make sure you've got all that worked out before you start looking, even if you're just looking casually. The other thing you want to be aware of are home inspections and disclosures. These are really important items. And if you find a house that you're interested in, you definitely want to get your agent to get you the disclosures. And that'll include hopefully a home inspection, a pest inspection, possibly a roof inspection or chimney inspection, and then the disclosures that are put out by the sellers. They are required by law to disclose everything they know about the house, be it good or be it bad, so you don't get any unpleasant surprises. But it really is on the buyer to make sure that they go through all the inspections. If you don't look at the inspections or you just kind of ignore them, you do so at your own risk, and you don't want to do that. So you don't get any unpleasant surprises later, like a faulty foundation, a leaky roof. There's all kinds of things that can be a problem. And we'll cover inspections on a later video and go into those in more detail. Okay, item number 4, buying in a seller's market. And right now, at the end of 2020, we are in a seller's market. There is not a lot of inventory out there, but there are definitely a lot of buyers. So one of the first things you definitely don't want to do is come in with a crazy lowball offer, especially if your real estate agent is warning that there may be multiple offers. If a house is priced competitively or even aggressively, chances are other people are going to see the same house and think, wow, this is a great deal, let's go for it. But if you're thinking you're going to save money by going in really low, that's probably a quick way to get eliminated. The other thing is weird requests, things that are out of the ordinary. It's probably not a good idea to do that. And then, of course, as I mentioned before, make sure you have that financing in place. And frankly, the other thing, you definitely want to have an agent, because if you're going to make an offer, you're going to need an agent to write it up for you. Yeah, you can do stuff on your own, but frankly, it's a quick way to lose the property or get eliminated or get in big trouble. So those are things that you want to do, especially going into a seller market. Be ready to go, and more important than anything, make sure you've got that financing in place so you're ready to go as soon as that perfect house comes up, and it will. Okay, the 5th critical thing that you definitely want to make sure you do not do when first time buying a house, and that is going out and buying a bunch of furniture or buying a new car. There have been countless cases of people who were able to get the house they wanted. They beat out other parties and were able to get that perfect dream house or starter house or whatever it was, only to be disqualified from their loan because they went out and bought a new car. It seems crazy, but people actually will get so excited. And there's like, wow, we got a new house. Well, let's go get a new car to go with it. Or let's go buy new furniture, which is also a really expensive item. And the next thing you know, their debt to income ratio gets screwed up and they get disqualified. They lose the loan and they lose the house. So frankly, whatever you do, you get that house, don't go out and buy any big expensive items, because the next thing you know, you could be out, which you definitely don't want to do. Okay, that's a quick rundown of the 5 most important things you want to bear in mind as a new home buyer. This is actually a much more in-depth subject, so if you have any interest in pursuing it further, please reach out to me. You can reach me at 408-706-0561 or my email. It's stephen.s@intero.com. That's STEPHENS@intero.com. Look forward to talking to you soon. We'll see you then. Thanks.